Good. I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. This is the Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee. Been joined by Councilmember Mitch Englander. And if we could go through the consent item, we will first receive and file item 8, which is a director's report. Items 4, 5, 6, we will put on consent. And if the clerk can please read 4, 5, and 6 into the record.
Sure, Councilman. Item 4 is a zone change. It's for a 6-story apartment with 82 units, 75 guest rooms, and 7 apartment units. It's in CD10. Item 5, again, a zone change. This is for a 33-unit apartment building located in CD7. Item 6 is a zone change, again, and this is for a 59 condo project and 5 single-family homes in CD3.
Okay, so we'll do item 4 and 5 on consent. We do have item 6. There's anybody opposed to this? I think they're all supportive. If you guys want to take it on consent, or you still want to speak? Oh, nobody's responding, so let me just call you up then. Donna Tripp, Craig Lawson. Are you here? Don't need to speak? Doug Osternault? Nope. And Cesar Diaz, Council District 3. You cool? All right, so we'll move that item and with no opposition.
So this is one of those items where we go ahead, they turn down the speakership, we move the item, and then at the end of the meeting, I reconsider the item when they're gone. No, I'm just kidding. No opposition.
You're going to make them all stay throughout the meeting now. Item number 7, we will continue due to a noticing issue. The city clerk is to find a new date for a plum hearing. Do we have one yet?
No, sir. Once the hearing date has been determined, notices will be sent out.
Okay, and that is a CEQA appeal of density bonus at 12027 Wilshire Boulevard. That will be continued. Okay, and if we could take items 1, 2, and 3 together, please. Is staff here?
Yes, those are CAO reports for different contract functions for historic preservation, transportation, and environmental consultants. And CAO is here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Englander. My name is Nicholas Campbell with CAO's office. I'm speaking on the item regarding the transportation consultant, so not item number 1.
Can you pick up the microphone, please? It's difficult to hear in this room. Yeah, thank you.
Item number 1 before you is a request from the City Planning Department to negotiate and execute 20 on-call contracts for transportation consulting services. The contracts will have a term of 60 months beginning on the effective date of the contracts, and the option to extend the contract for 2 additional 12-month terms. The 20 contractors selected form a list of pre-qualified on-call transportation consultants created as the result of a request for qualifications issued by the department in August of last year. The funding for these contracts is limited by the annual budget allocations. Other funding from developers and or other funding sources for specific projects may arise throughout the term of the contracts and may be identified at a later time. Our office is in concurrence with the recommendations of the department, and there should be a department representative available for any specific questions on these contracts.
Great, thank you. We might have some questions. We do have one comment card, so let's take up the comment first, and then.
Sure.
Did you present on all items right now, or is that just
just item
1? Okay, how about 2?
Michael Garcia from the CAO's office, prepared the CAO report for item 2 and 3.
Okay.
Item 2 is a report relative to city planning requests to execute 6 contracts for on-call historic preservation consultants. The proposed term of the contracts is 60 months from the date of execution, with the option of 2 additional one-year terms. The CIO's office conducted a charter section 1022 that determined the work can be performed more feasibly by a contractor since there is insufficient existing city staff to perform the work, and the work is limited in scope and intermittent in nature. The DCP reports that the proposed contracts are funded through a combination of a grant from the Getty Foundation, the Construction Services Trust Fund, and a certified local government grant, and the cost is fully recovered through these funding sources. Item 3 is also a request from the Department of City Planning for 19 on-call contracts for environmental consulting services for new community plans, policy planning, and environmental review and related services. The proposed term is also 60 months from the date of execution, with the option of 2 additional one-year terms, not to exceed 7 years. Let's see. The CIO's office also conducted a charter section 1022 concluding that the work can be more feasibly contracted out. And the DCP reports that the proposed contracts will be funded through a combination of funding sources, including general fund budget appropriations and other funding sources as may be identified with specific projects as they arise through the term of the contract. And that is item 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Myself and Nick are here for any questions.
Okay, thank you. William, now we'll go on to public column. William Kuzman. Thank you.
Hello, esteemed council members of the Planning and Land Use Committee. It's nice to be here today. This is the first Planning and Land Use Committee meeting that I've attended, so you'll forgive me if I miss some protocol here. My concern about these 2 agenda items is more particularly with agenda item 3, which is regarding the environmental impact report. I read the contracts and I saw some issues that I was kind of concerned about. One of those issues is that the expertise of these environmental companies are also going to be required to deal with the implementation of the municipal codes, and that these contractors, when they are hired, are going to be paid by funds from grants. And as I read through the contract, it said that the city was going to be paying for these services when they are completed. I understand that the purpose for this is to help work with the EIR.
Sure, your one time's up, but if you could just finish your thought on that.
Well, my concern is that after the Hollywood plan and what happened with that, a lot of the concerns that I have with the Granada Hills community plan are exactly the ones that the judge struck down. So I really want to make sure that when that EIR is looked at, it's done properly and thoroughly.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Now, staff, on these, we could call staff back up, please. On all these contracts, they're going to provide environmental, historic, and transportation. I understand that we've done this before. We just haven't updated these lists in a very long time. And what would you say is the benefit of hiring these consultants as opposed to hiring full-time personnel in the planning department? Why are we outsourcing this rather than hiring planners for the department?
I would defer to the department specifically on that as the reasons behind.
Yeah, you're from the CAO's office, right?
Yeah, CAO's office.
Yes, sir.
Jason Clean, Office of the City Administrative Officer also. The department utilizes these on-call contracts to meet peak workload demands and also utilize expertise in specific subject matter expertise, areas that the department doesn't actually have expertise in. So typically what will happen is a project will come through, and if the department doesn't have a specific expertise necessary, they'll tap one of the on-call consultants to actually come in and supplement a staff led by city staff. There are also times where, due to project timelines, we don't have sufficient staff and couldn't offer sufficient overtime to complete the project, and we need to supplement our workforce with on-call consultants. And given the intermittent nature is the reason why we don't build up the planning department for these purposes.
Okay. And in your opinion, would this compromise the independence that the department is supposed to have when looking at some of these projects as they come through? Or would there be possibility for any conflict as we're hiring outside consultants to look at what should be a city purview of review that's accountable to the public?
The department and the city attorney's office review all of the consultant's work, so I don't see it as a conflict of interest. The department doesn't just stamp what the consultant provides and sends it forward. They actually do their own review and analysis on the consultant's reports.
Okay. And will the majority of these consultants be used for policy making? For example, you call upon a consultant to advise the planning department to create policy, or is it more project specific as they go through the process that we need some type of analysis?
It's both.
It's both. Okay. And how would you go about in selecting these consultants? If you have a list, if you have a bench, how would you select one of the historic preservation consultants, for example, when you need them?
Typically, when a project comes up, the department prepares a work order and basically submits that to the bench, and then the consultants that are actually specialized and have responded and been qualified to do that particular type of work can submit a bid to the department, and the department evaluates that bid and selects the proposer that is best qualified to assist them in that project.
Okay. And are we required to abide by any small business rules, regulations, local, state, or federal?
In compiling the list, the department follows all of the city's typical guidelines for contracting, including the BAVIN requirements.
And so what guidelines do we follow here to support small businesses?
Hi, Jan Zatorsky, Deputy Director. Particularly on the transportation, I believe, and the environmental contractors, we created different tasks, so you didn't have to bid on all the tasks. If you're like a small business that would just do something in particular, that you could bid on that item, and that's why our list is pretty extensive. We have a combination of medium, large, and small firms, so they'll all be able to bid on the tasks that they're qualified for.
Does the city have a small business goal hiring for each contract or RFP that we put out? We do not.
There's not actually a required percentage. We do have all the contractors have to meet the business inclusion program, which is outreach to different minority and small and local businesses.
Okay.
And they all complied.
Great, thank you. When I was on the Board of Education and we underwent one of the largest school construction programs in the country, we implemented a 25% goal for small businesses in each contract that we let out, and that now, several years later, has resulted in what I believe new businesses getting opportunities rather than the same old businesses. In these particular fields, I could see how it's a very unique area with particular expertise and skills and knowledge that we are looking for. But I think that does beg the question about whether the city should have similar types of rules, but that's not for the planning department to look at. That's a bigger overall policy issue we should probably be looking at. So, any questions?
I think you asked most of the questions that I had, but one of the questions I had is a lot of these firms also do environmental work, historic preservation work, transportation planning for folks that have applications, developers and others before the city. They are contracted, many of those, in fact, most of them have conflicting work. Is there a direct recusal, conflict mandate that they go through any kind of conflict training? Do they have to sign documents to recuse themselves? Is there anything spelled out in these contracts to ensure that that those issues are met as well?
I mean, I'm not familiar that we actually have the training or the policy. Our staff are familiar if there's any kind of review or what would be involved in a project. If a contractor would be involved in that, we would certainly have that right to recuse them from or accepting that bid if they bid.
So so if they're brought in on a particular review on any specific project, and they have a competing project, for example, right down the street, is that spelled out?
When staff actually let the contract to have the proposers come and bid on a project, they know which proposers may have a conflict of interest, and those proposers would not be invited to bid on that opportunity. So the contract doesn't specifically require consultants to recuse themselves where there may be a conflict, staff have the opportunity to identify anybody who may have some conflict of interest in actually doing that work and omit them from the bidding process.
What happens in the situation when they don't have a conflict of interest? They've been awarded a bid or a contract, and then they pick up a client that creates a new conflict.
As one of our standard conditions as part of the contract, the city has the right to terminate contracts.
If we know about it.
With 30-day notice, yes, if we know about it.
Is there a requirement in the contract that they have to disclose any either immediate or ones that might arise during the contract conflicts of interest? And does it spell out additional parameters that aren't necessarily located on that site, but other ones that could be a conflict?
I would have to go through.
When we write a bid letter, we can certainly make that provision. We could say, if you have to disclose that. So when we put out that bid letter to the contractor, we set the parameters, and we can specifically make that finding. So if you have any projects within so much radius, you're not.
Or should one arise during the time period?
Correct.
Either way. Then I would ask that if we could approve this, and perhaps a city attorney addendum spelling out from the city attorney specifically how we would word and capture the elements of any conflict issues, both while they're bidding and or after the fact once the contract's awarded, and to spell out whether it's based on that specific location and or another location within so many feet, whichever we follow closest to our conflict laws. I think those are important to do where, these are very reputable, for the most part, very reputable, the ones I'm familiar with anyway, organizations and firms doing this work. So I want to thank staff for really going out there and spending quite a deal of time putting this together, and it's but to make sure also that we're covered on the back end as well, to not spend so much time and effort on a project and then to only find out later that there was a conflict and everything's got to be thrown out and we've got to start over, or that there are any other issues that arise. Just the public perception, the transparency, and I'm sure that's the intent. I want to make sure we codify that intent and memorialize it, perhaps again with some language from the city attorney and the contract award. That would certainly be the appropriate place to put it.
Yeah, because we
And I don't want to hold this up, so I think that would be great.
Okay.
So with that, it'll be my motion to amend the approval, ask for the city attorney to draft language for the contract award based on our existing conflict of interest laws.
Okay, and we will approve that item with the amendment. So ordered. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Englander. Next item, please.
Public comment, Council.
Public comment. William Funderburk. After William Funderburk is Barbara Savage. Welcome.
Good afternoon, council members, honorary council members. My name is William Funderburk. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself as a private citizen and resident of the 400 block of South Sycamore. As a resident of the 400 block of South Sycamore, I'm part of the larger La Brea Hancock Homeowners Association. We've worked diligently with your staff, with the staffs of other council members for the past year to year and a half on trying to develop a restricted floor area ordinance, and I'm going to yield whatever time I have, which it's not a lot, but to the balance of my neighbors to explain a little bit more about this. But I'm here in support of trying to get this on the agenda because I testified to get more funds for the planning committee from the budget committee for the planning process back in May, and the plan was to try to get more things like this to defeat mansionization up and off the ground. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Barbara Savage, Robert Esel.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Barbara Savage. I'm the president of the La Brea Hancock Homeowners Association. I'm also the secretary of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee, and I serve as an alternate board member on the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. I'm also a former employee of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. I've lived in the Hancock Park, La Brea Hancock area for over 20 years, and the La Brea Hancock area is a very small, tiny pocket of single-family homes nestled between Hancock Park and the La Brea Tar Pits, both of which are HPOZs. We're 294 homes that were built between 1929 and 1932, and some have been tastefully remodeled within the style of our neighborhood. Unfortunately, many of our residents are well past retirement and have a nest egg that's valued at about $1 million. Now, I understand the city's financial gains from property taxes on home sales, but I also recognize that the city of Los Angeles, specifically, can I continue? Thank
Finish
you.
up your thought.
Specifically, the Mid-Wilshire area has great historic reference. Our homes, the 294 homes in the single family area maintains bachelor tiles, where we still have historic style homes, just like the historic Arlington Heights craftsman style homes. While we accept the change that's going on,
I'm trying to be fair
I know
to
I
everybody
lost
that
my
they
thought
have 1
when
minute.
the buzzer went off.
Yeah.
They said that they would yield to me because these are all with me.
You can submit, you have it in writing, you can
I
submit it
do
as
have
well,
it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
so we can get the whole thing.
Just trying to be fair with everybody, otherwise everybody would get an exception and go on and on. So, Robert Easel, Diana Easel.
Thank you. In 2007, our La Brea Hancock neighborhood had only one McMansion among 295 homes. As Barbara just pointed out, soon there will be 33 McMansions. Actually, she didn't get a chance to point that out. The pace has more than doubled, and in the next few years, the character of our neighborhood will be destroyed, and with it, the value of our traditional homes. La Brea Hancock's RFA motion will address mansionization problems specific to our neighborhood that even the BMO amendment can't address, such as an ironclad requirement for detached garages. We support a citywide BMO amendment, but our historic neighborhood needs to have its own RFA ordinance. If our motion is stalled, the committee is putting a de facto moratorium on a zoning tool intended to help neighborhoods like ours. In that case, a moratorium should also be placed on developers, an interim control ordinance to stop them from manipulating loopholes in the BMO to build their McMansions. I know the city planning budget was increased for the purpose of addressing our RFA, and when those new planners are on the job, we hope that La Brea Hancock's RFA is also on their desks.
Thank you. Diana Easel, Irene Nicolai.
Good afternoon. Do I have permission to hold this up?
Sure.
Looks like the periodic table of elements.
A wise man once said, "In order to destroy a man, make the character of his work useless." This map shows the hard work and effort of our neighborhood of 12 blocks. Residents organized and went door to door to get the pulse of the neighborhood. Results for the RFA support are in this block of green. Don't make this effort useless. Although we feel the BMO amendment is a good idea, we need the specific relief of an RFA. We are grateful that the city budget has added funds for city planners to specifically address these kinds of ordinances. Please get our RFA motion to city planning as soon as possible. Thanks. May I hold up one more item?
Sure, you have 5 seconds.
I don't need to say much about this, but this home in the middle could be your house.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you.
thank you. Irene Nicolai, Philip Messina.
Good afternoon. My name is Irene Nicolai. I'm a homeowner in this neighborhood. After 65 years of noisy New York, I came back to the home that I grew up in, and I put a lot of money into restoring it. Last year, I woke up to the same jackhammers and screaming and loud music that I escaped from New York. My next-door neighbors also put in a balcony that now overlooks my little garden, and I have no privacy. I figure I'm 76 years old. I figure I have 10 years of lucidity left in my life. And the idea of having to live in a place like New York City that I escaped from is extremely alarming and very depressing. And I am here to speak for people like me in this neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Philip Messina, Fred Pohl.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I'm holding this up because I'm also a member. I'm a block captain in the La Brea Hancock neighborhood that was shown up. These are my neighbors and friends, and I wanted to just highlight what we're all going through. I'm sure you guys have a very good idea, but I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. The little house in the middle here are friends of mine. I know them very well, Carla and Michael and their son Nicholas. They've been there for 15 years or something like that. I've been in the neighborhood for 32 years. In my current house for 15 years on Citrus Avenue. This house, as you can see, will never be bought by anybody. It's simply worth, its only worth is for demolition. And that's the pattern that's going to happen in our neighborhoods if this keeps up. So we're very appreciative that you guys are, dealing with and addressing it. I just wanted to underscore how important this is to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fred Pohl and Jill Brown.
Thank you. I've lived on Citrus Avenue for 22 years now, and I would like to also support the people from La Brea Hancock who've come here to request an RFA for our area. It seems that with the two HPOZs on either side of us, and with I think our efforts actually to do something about mansionization, the blood is definitely in the water in our neighborhood, and I do think that we're going to reach a point where, the point of no return, whatever that is, but I think that it is busting up a community that really has taken a lot of pride in preserving what's been there since 1922. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jill Brown, Brad Jewett.
Good afternoon. I want to tell you about a family who moved in down the street from me about 5 years ago. Their house is a typical Spanish home built in the 1920s, much like the center one in that picture, although I'm on a different block. They put a lot of effort and money into renovating it. They added some square footage while maintaining its historical character and Spanish style. From their second-story balcony, they could enjoy the sunset and even catch a glimpse of the Hollywood Hills. Then last year, the house next door to them was bought by developers who tore it down and began building a huge McMansion. The developer got rid of the driveway that had served as a buffer between that house and my neighbor's house. After living next to a construction site for 8 months, now all my neighbors can see from their balcony is the massive wall of the McMansion towering over their small Spanish home. That would be bad enough, but last month the house on the other side of my neighbor's house was sold to developers. So now what are their choices? They can endure another year of construction and then be boxed in by McMansions on both sides. Or they can sell, but what's the value of their house now? Now it is only a tear down itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Jewett, William Kuzman.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Jewett. I live on the 600 block of South Sycamore Avenue, which is within the La Brea Hancock Park Homeowners Association. I'm a member of the HOA's Board of Directors and currently serve as co-vice president. When I talk to my neighbors about their concerns, they consistently state that they're terrified someone will purchase the house adjacent to theirs, tear it down, and build a McMansion. There are currently at least 5 homes on my block that are at risk of being purchased by developers. Based on this, my neighbors and I are living in a state of perpetual fear that one of these monstrosities will be erected next door or across the street. The HOA's RFA motion will address mansionization problems specific to our neighborhood. There are no guarantees the BMO will be amended, and even if it is, the amendment may not address our specific issues and concerns, such as the need for a requirement for driveways and detached garages, as well as elimination of certain green building square footage bonuses. I'm here to request the Plum promptly send La Brea Hancock Park HOA's RFA to the city planning for consideration. If it does not do so, it'll be restricting access to a mechanism created for the express purpose of helping neighborhoods such as ours address specific zoning issues.
Thank you. William Cusman and Jake Prentice.
I'm here to speak on a different side for an RFA that's in the Granada Hills Community Plan that 90% of the people that are going to be affected by it don't know it and don't even need it because we don't have a problem. I sympathize with these people here, and I'm going to read my statement. Changes to the BMO have not been evaluated. Well, the BMO hasn't been evaluated in the first place since the City Planning Commission asked them to do that in 2008. It must be evaluated by demographic area. The residential properties command prices that are 3 or 4 times higher than the average place in the San Fernando Valley for the RFAs in Studio City and Beverly Grove. The mansionization occurs in affluent communities of Los Angeles. Currently, the BMO contains a tool called the RFA district when a majority of owners want to raise or lower the floor area ratio set forth in the BMO. The RFA application code says an application must be initiated with the signatures of 75% of the owners and lessees. I request that if changes are made to the BMO, the term lessees be removed as they have no interest in the property interests of the owners.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay. It's Jane?
Jane.
Jane, right. Jane Press.
Yes.
Presses.
I live on the 300 block of South Sycamore Avenue. I am a block captain, and I am in support of Plum keeping the RFA and reviewing it as quickly as possible. And this will stop the demolition of numerous small bungalow-style family homes that make up this area that have been lovingly taken care of for as long as 80 or 90 years by families who have lived there 15, 20 years or longer. We have been there 39 years, and we have a family who will be remaining in the neighborhood in that house, and they've already been there since 1950. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming out and speaking on this item. Usually it's not agendized, so we can't really discuss it, but I will say that in a previous meeting we moved to examine the BMA, but if you have any questions about the RFAs and when we could schedule those, my staff member Tanner Blackman is here if you want to speak with him after this meeting, but I really can't discuss it because it's not agendized, it's just public comment. So with that, any other items? Okay, great. Thank you. Meeting adjourned with no objections. Thank you.